3 days in a row of enhanced risk. 3 streams. Any more? Yep. Good morning, YouTube. Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Man, it's been a pretty active stretch. Last night was the third day in a row where I've had to do a live stream, and it was the third enhanced risk in a row. So far, we aren't seeing the same thing today. It's only a slight risk for now, but it wouldn't surprise me if somehow we got an enhanced risk. And this time we're back towards Dixie Alley once again. We're mainly looking to the southeast. We're staying south of my area actually today here, but some of my folks in Augusta here, we're going to have to keep an eye on you guys. I got some relatives over there. Dallas just can't seem to escape, but I think this might be an early morning threat. But areas like Shreveport, Jackson, Greenville, Birmingham, later this afternoon, I'll be watching you guys along with Columbus, Dothan, and Tallahassee for the threat of some severe storms. Atlanta, you are in the marginal risk, so it's not like you're completely out of it, but we mainly should see relatively minimal severe weather activity, albeit it's not zero. And then this little area over here towards the Quad State Panhandle, I guess you would call that, the Quad State area here, I guess you would call it, is back in play once more. Main threat for today is damaging winds and hail, but tornadoes aren't impossible. We have a 5% area over towards the Quad State areas. There's no 2% area over there, but as we have learned this year, that can mean absolutely nothing, and we can still get tornadoes. We've had, even if it's a no tor risk, 2%, it doesn't really matter in this case. But as far as the wind is concerned, big area is, of course, where the slight risk is. Definitely going to be looking later today towards the southeast. May go live on this one, may not. May take a break because there's another big setup that I might be looking down the pipe at on Friday and even beyond. Also, another thing to note, the hail threat is definitely the greatest threat right now with the hatch risk in effect. Lapse rates over this region, even this far east, is pretty impressive here. About 7s and 8s from what I've seen on models. So that being said here, we're going to be keeping a close eye on this. Also, this forecast is going to be a weekly forecast. So we're going to dive in a little further. We're going to divulge into things a bit here. Tomorrow we have an enhanced risk, so good chance I'm going to go live for that one. But the categorical outlook goes as follows. Wind and hail are the main threats. Hail once again being dominant. And guess what? It's over the same area. So flooding is also going to be a concern here. And then, of course, there's the 2% tornado threat. This stretches from Dothan all the way towards the Louisiana-Arkansas line here. And, of course, this includes you, Jackson. So that being said here, we're going to be keeping an eye on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, things are a little bit more tame at the moment. But, again, this is a very broad marginal risk area. We could end up seeing an area pop up for a slight risk here. Another setup exists with this one here towards the mid-levels mainly. And then, of course, the same can be said for this setup over here towards the southern Gulf states here, mainly across parts particularly of the panhandle of Florida here. And then, of course, South Georgia, South Alabama, and southern Mississippi. Jackson, it just seems like you guys can't get out. As far as days 4 through 8 are concerned, for the most part, it's predictability too low, except for day 6, or 7, or 8 actually, Day 8, where the potential is too low. I don't know why I kept on saying 6, 7, and 8. I think it changed from the last time I looked at it, but that was last night. That being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the models here. I don't know why we got this far forward, but yeah, just some wacky stuff going on this morning. We're mainly going to be looking towards mid-levels because that's where these setups are going to be the most impressive. Not much really going on at the upper level. Wouldn't be too concerned with this. This will increase shower and thunderstorm activity across the Ohio Valley here and around the Great Lakes. But for the most part, as far as severe is concerned, you should be okay over here. It's really towards the southeast this week, for the rest of this week where I'm concerned, Texas, and then, of course, towards the western high plains. So here's today's setup. Kinematically speaking, nothing super crazy. I mean, we're at the 40 to 50 knot range, but if we were to take a sounding from these regions here, you'll come to find very quickly that there's not a lot to go off of here, especially as far as tornado threats are concerned. But note that there are pretty good D-Cape numbers here, and the lapse rates are at 7s over here. Again, you don't really see lapse rates persist this far to the east. Usually it'll hang west, especially during this time of year. So it's something notable. A little fun fact for anyone that's more into the weather, into the more nerdy stuff like I am. But look at tomorrow when this mid-level really starts to kick up here, especially once we get late into the evening. Now, this will be a little bit more concerning for a tornado setup. But the low-level, oh, great. But the low-level jet in particular, I wouldn't be super concerned with. I don't know why I'm not able to pull up a sounding there. Maybe let me try it again. There we go. Again, even with that increased mid-level jet, low-level jet is not very impressive. We're barely cracking 20 to 30 knots here, so not really anything to be too concerned with yet. But then again, as I've said before, we've seen these kinds of soundings, and then we've had multiple tornadoes. In fact, Sunday was a perfect example of that. We had like a 2% tornado threat, and there were several tornadoes around West Tennessee, one near Kentucky. We even had I don't know if it was confirmed or not, but we had a pretty impressive tornado warning in Ohio on Sunday. We caught that on stream, by the way. Be sure to catch the live streams if you do subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell, make sure you catch them. But anyway, as we move forward here, setup changes, and the attention needs to be put more so towards West Kansas, maybe parts of the Quad State region here, as I'm calling it, because there are 4 states here. Because we have Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, and well, actually that would be I think that would actually be 5. No, that would be 4. I can't do math today. Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. Yeah, that's 5 actually. I don't know exactly what you would call that either, so I'm not going to do that. But yep, I can't do math. Anyway, as we continue to go forward here, we start to look at Friday. We start to see another setup try to develop towards the southeast. What will come of that, I'm not sure. But I do find it interesting that we start to see an increase over here towards the Florida Panhandle. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. Can't wait to look at the models later and get a better idea of what this is doing. I may do an update video, especially if I don't go live today. So Saturday, a more impressive mid-level setup exists across Oklahoma. We're going to be looking at that. And then from that point, we'll be looking at maybe Sunday across the Ohio Valley and Tennessee valleys. So a lot of stuff still yet to go here. It's going to be a pretty active month, it looks like. It's going to be the month that May wasn't, and usually May is the most active month for severe weather, and particularly tornadoes. I don't know if we'll get a lot of tornadoes, but it's definitely on a faster pace than I think we might be on a faster pace than what we were in May, that's for sure. So now that we've looked at that, let's go ahead and look at the temperatures for everybody across the board here through the next week or so. No surprises here. Going to be pretty warm for just about everybody except for anyone that's under this little low pressure area here with this trough. It's going to be a little cooler than average there. West is still pretty warm right now. We are expected to shift into a negative PNA pattern, so that's going to mean the West is going to end up being cooler than average in comparison to the East. The East is going to be a little bit warmer than average. And we're starting to see semblance of that as we get towards the end of this weekend. With this pattern shift, this does increase potential for severe weather. And then as time goes on here, that pattern starts to become a little bit more persistent, but that warm air still does hang in there, especially towards the southwest here where we're getting into those triple digits. We weren't really seeing that as much in May, but now that we've gotten into June, we're starting to see that running more rampant. Seeing widespread triple digits across Texas here, and 90s are even spreading all the way into northern Kansas here. Wouldn't be surprising to see even Nebraska keep seeing a few 90s as well. Excuse me. Sorry if I sound scratchy, but We start next week here. Things persist, but look at this right here. We're starting to see it get a little bit colder towards the northeast here. My voice is a little shot from last night. But nonetheless, keeping an extra close eye on this region throughout the week for severe weather. With these kinds of temperatures and the dew points, I'm expecting this could be a problem here. So that being said, we're going to actually go ahead and take a look at dew points next. So let's go ahead and do that. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. That was awful. But that being said, here is the moist sector over the southeast for the next couple of days, and this is what's going to be a big factor in severe weather. Often is, and really throughout the week, we have a very rich, very abundant moist sector that's going to be persisting throughout a large course of the weekend and even into next week, especially for those setups that are going to be a little bit more off to the east here. We haven't seen much moisture return over towards West Texas, so that could be one reassuring factor for severe weather. I'm going to go back and take a look again for Thursday here. And that could be also why we have a marginal risk, because we don't get a great moisture return. We do get a couple of 60s here and there towards west and maybe west central Kansas, but some of these other spots I'm not so sure of right now. But there's other models I could look at, but I don't have a lot of time, so I do have to go to work in a bit. That being said, though, as we go past the weekend into next weekend, we do continue to see more increased moisture towards the east. And wow, I'm seeing a couple 80s here. You don't see that on the GFS very often, but that could be very concerning for a Monday setup should things persist, which they very well could. So I'm going to be keeping an extra close eye on that. If any other dynamics come into play there, we could be dealing with some big time problems. As we get to about 10 days out, this is getting interesting as the moisture is starting to push a little bit back towards the west as well. So looks like everybody could be in play down the line for more severe weather towards the western Texas, panhandle of Texas, maybe even the western plains. But we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. That being said, let's look at today's parameters over here towards the southeast and maybe even tomorrow's. Uh-oh, I don't know what happened there. I had to fix a little thing. I'm sorry about that, but this is a look at the convective available potential energy, or a CAPE. You'll hear that a lot on this channel. This is usually what we would consider thunderstorm fuel or food. You can call it whichever one you like, but when we start to get past this blue color into the yellow colors here, that's a pretty good amount of energy available for these storms to go feed off of and really start to thrive here. Today it isn't that impressive. We do get to about 1,500, 2,000 joules, but when we get into Wednesday, it really starts to ramp up here. Look at that. Getting into about 3,000 joules per kilogram late in the evening on tomorrow, and that's going to be concerning in regards to the severe weather threat. As far as the tornado potential, here's a sounding here. Not the most impressive kinematics again, but it's something to keep an eye on nonetheless. And then not to mention seeing the SDP. This is at about a 6.5. It's a significant tornado parameter. So that's interesting to see right there, something to keep note of. The storm alert felicity looks pretty good as well. Pretty much all the parameters here look pretty impressive so far. We'll have to see if this holds up or not. But it's interesting to see the HRRR onto that. Of course, we're still 40 hours out, so a lot can change. But yeah, the CAPE looks pretty impressive for tomorrow, so that's something to definitely keep an eye on. Another thing to make note of is the lapse rates. Again, I'm not really too concerned about a tornado threat. We could see an upgrade if that trend holds from this morning's model run. But every 6 hours, we usually get a big exodus of model runs to come in, so things often change pretty quickly. So here is a look at today's lapse rates. So I'm thinking the hot spot for hail might be towards Louisiana today, but we'll have to see how things play out with that. Storms probably will be firing over there earlier in the day. Then once we get into the evening hours, it's persist a little bit more so towards the east, getting closer towards maybe Mississippi here. We get into tomorrow, though, however, more widespread higher lapse rates around 7 and 8 are possible, especially over towards Louisiana, Arkansas. Then it even stretches into a good chunk of Mississippi now, even getting into Alabama and Florida. So I could expect more widespread hail tomorrow than we would today, but we'll see how things play out. These types of parameters are kind of a last minute thing. They can uptick very quickly, so just because I'm saying it now doesn't mean it can't change later. That being said here, let's go and take a look at something real quick. Okay. I'm trying to make sure my thing was still playing. My screen capture was still playing. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, one last thing to look at here, and that's the overall precip that we could see over the next week or so. Hold on a second. Something's going on here. Bunch of voodoo stuff going on with my computer here. Definitely don't think I clicked whatever it was that popped up there. But that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what we could see over the course of next week. So we know about our severe weather potential. That's the main thing. You can't see actually a pocket over here of snow up towards the higher elevations in Colorado, which I find interesting. See if that holds up or not. In fact, with that cold pool that's starting to try to come in, it's actually not unlikely. It's definitely a shock to see it, though. Here's that setup on Sunday that I was interested in. And here's Saturday's setup over here, mainly towards Kansas, Oklahoma, where I'd be looking for that. And then as we go forward here, southeast looks like it's still in play here. And other than that, it's pretty much a similar deal. Pretty active pattern as a whole as we get further and further to the model run here. Of course, we also have to watch the tropics because anything on the fringe of these frontal boundaries that make it into the Gulf, if wind shear is light enough and the waters, which are warm enough in this case, persist, we could see a quick little tropical depression, maybe even tropical storm develop. So a lot to keep track of here. This video ran a little bit long. I apologize for that. But if you did enjoy it, you know what to do. Smash that like button, decimate that subscribe button, face kick that share button. So we'll see what happens next over the course of the next few weeks here. Seems like we're going to be warming up in the east here. The west might see a little bit of a cool down, particularly towards the northwest. But that's all I got for you guys. I'm going to get the heck out of here and go to work. This is Tire Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys in the next one.